once upon a time, England enjoyed music. It was a pastime and a pleasure. Meanwhile, in Germany, music had become an art. J.S. Bach, Mozart and Beethoven were worshipped as figureheads of a new national cult, classical music. The English were not interested. They had not heard the music of Bach during his life or for the 100 years since his death. They preferred Handel and Mendelssohn to Beethoven and Mozart. In time, some people promoted the cult of classical music in England by praising and performing the more progressive new composers. But few in England could see any point in listening to music that they did not like. Whether in the concert hall or the music hall, the English loved melody. 1854 English review of Robert Schumann, incoherent and thoroughly uninteresting. Franz Schubert, perhaps a more overrated man never existed. English review of Hector Berlioz. The little tune that seems to exist is of so decidedly vulgar a character as to exclude the possibility of our supposing him possessed of a shadow of feeling. Reviews of Johann Brahms. Worse than the influenza. Gratuitous ugliness, uncouthness, difficulty and affectation have hardly ever been more firmly combined and in larger quantity. The dawn of a new century did not change public taste. In 1912, an American pianist performed Schoenberg's 3 pianoforte pieces in an English concert hall to the accompaniment of laughter. In 1923, a music critic said that the composer Stravinsky would only be enjoyed in the future by a few jaded neurotics. Mahler's symphony is a detailed annotation of what the music could be like if only the composer could think of the right notes. Performers and composers also held strong views about the imposition of progressive music in England. The public do not want clever songs. They want simple melodies with a human appeal, songs that will enable them to admire the beauties of the human voice. I am afraid that today their desires are seldom met, and that probably accounts for the increasing popularity of the older music. The English public has always loved melody. It has been brought up on melody, and it is fully aware of the fact that music can be good and even highbrow without losing its melodious qualities. Why are the frequenters of serious concerts so alarmingly ugly? And why do their features usually denote harsh intellectuality and repudiation? Why have they the air of mummies who have crept out of the pyramids in order to accomplish a rite? There is plenty of melody in the old classics, some of which will be popular for all time. But what should we say of a good deal of the ultra-modern music? Does it really grip the average man or woman whose object in going to a concert is to spend a pleasant evening, rather than to expend brain power in trying to analyse a babel of sound? Stravinsky stands at the head of a movement which interprets much that is real and rotten in the modern world. He endeavours to disguise the rottenness and leaves it the more desperate. There is always an immense public for music that is good without being highbrow, but how few are the opportunities of hearing it. Turn where one will, it is difficult to find evidence of British music. In fact, it is so seldom heard in comparison with foreign compositions that one might be apt to think that the public have a strong antipathy towards it. The truth is that to a large extent the public have to take what is given to them. She, what do you think of his execution? He, I'm in favour of it. Lady Sneerwell, have your daughters accomplished much in music? Unfortunate father, yes, the tenants below have moved. But soon no one cared what the public or musicians thought. New, progressive composers were promoted, and melodious national favourites were forgotten. Popular music seemed to fill the gap. It appealed to unpretentious people who liked tunes and enjoyed listening to something they could understand. But England had changed a lot between 1860 and 1960. The tunefulness did not stay for very long. Popular music became an angry vehicle for political protest and cultural change. The public soon worshipped pop stars in the same way that the classical music cult worshipped their composers, conductors and performers. Whether the English worshipped the Beatles or Beethoven, they belonged to the same music cult. Children are now dedicated to music as young as possible. They are taught to believe in suffering for music's sake. Music is now one of the major religions of England, perhaps second only to sport. Far from being critical of the cult, the church exploits music to attract larger congregations. People once taught to live by faith now trust music to guide them. Whatever feels right is right. The state tries to build a sense of community through amateur music making. We glory in music of the past at the classical concert. And we expect to be confused and appalled by new music, as though noise is the hallmark of great art. If a composer refuses to write noise, then his music is condemned as inconsequential and inartistic. There is no place in modern music for beauty in melody and harmony, the kind of music that entertained people only a century ago. The cult of modern music does not even try to entertain people. It offers to save them instead. But who saves the musician? Music Mania. How the Victorians joined the cult of classical music and why England has never been the same since. For people who like music but don't like where it's going. For people ready to learn the truth about music.